Hello, I'm Melanie McKean. I'm a partner at HWL Ebsworth Lawyers and the leader of the investigation team assisting the independent investigator for allegations of workplace bullying and other unreasonable behaviour in CSIRO. The investigator is Professor Dennis Pearce. Dennis is a Professor of Law at the Australian National University, a former Commonwealth Ombudsman and well experienced in conducting investigations of this type. We thought it would be useful to talk today about some of the common questions and concerns that have been raised with us during the early stages of the investigation. Dennis, the investigation is being conducted in 2 phases. Can you tell us about the scope of phase 1?
Thank you, Mel. It's quite common in these sorts of investigations for it to be divided into 2 parts. The first phase deals with broad general questions, particularly those going to the way in which the organisation conducts its business when it's dealing with allegations of bullying or other forms of misconduct. And then secondly, in the early phase, to identify cases which require further and better investigation. So in phase 1 of this investigation, we're seeking submissions from both current and former staff of CSIRO. There has been some misreporting of this factor that suggested that current staff can't come to us. That's not correct. The terms of reference make it quite clear that present members of CSIRO can make submissions to the inquiry about issues that either have concerned them or that they have witnessed. And the same thing applies in relation to former staff. We're inviting submissions up until the 27th of May, so there's still a little time for you to put something into us. And we want to make it clear that the conduct we're concerned with is conduct at any time. It's not just limited to present day or more recent periods of management within CSIRO.
Dennis, what will you do at the end of phase 1?
We'll report at the end of July, and the report will canvass the 2 things that I've mentioned. There'll be a general findings report that will cover all the broad issues relating to CSIRO practices and procedures, and we'll indicate if we think that there are systemic issues of some kind, and we will make sure that that's brought to CSIRO's attention. We'll also report on every individual submission by means of a summary report to Dr. Clark, and I will let each person who has made a submission to us know the outcome of that initial inquiry.
Dennis, you've said that your report will be made to Dr. Clark, but what if the submission is about the conduct of Dr. Clark? What will happen then?
We've discussed this ourselves and we've discussed it with the Minister, and what we've agreed to do is that if a submission relates to the conduct of Dr. Clark, we will report that to the Board of CSIRO and to the Minister. If the conduct involves a member of the Board, then it wouldn't be appropriate just to report it to the Board, so we'll be reporting that directly to the Minister.
And what will CSIRO do with your phase 1 reports?
Well, they've told us that they will publish it in full, and that's what the terms of reference spell out, and I'm confident that there won't be any attempt being made to censor what we've said. We intend it to be a full and if needs be, critical report, and CSIRO have assured us that that report, no matter what its content, will be published, insofar as it relates to general matters. As far as the report is concerned with individuals, that won't be publicly reported because, of course, that would involve an invasion of the privacy of the individuals.
Dennis, will people who are named in a submission, the people about whom an allegation has been made, be told during phase 1 that an allegation has been made about them?
No, not in phase 1. The purpose of phase 1 is to identify those cases that warrant full investigation, and at that preliminary stage we won't be communicating with the people who have been named in the submission.
Moving on now to phase 2, what submissions will be investigated during phase 2?
We'll be looking at those cases where our phase 1 review indicated that there was a genuine cause for concern. We won't, after phase 1, be certain what the position is, and so that's when we will go into it in much greater depth, and we will be seeking information, further information from CSIRO, and the persons who have been named will be given the opportunity to present their side of the story.
And can you explain the limits of phase 2 and why those limits exist?
Yes, there must be some limits, because the power of CSIRO to deal with a matter is restricted to persons who are currently in the employ of CSIRO. So we won't be dealing with complaints against people who have left CSIRO, because CSIRO obviously has no jurisdiction over them. And we will only be dealing with matters in relation to current employees where it has become apparent from our investigations at phase 1 that there are special circumstances, because we expect that current employees should pursue the existing CSIRO mechanisms for resolution of complaints.
Dennis, can people who are in a current grievance or misconduct process with CSIRO, or who've been through a formal one in the past, or even people who have matters before the courts, make a submission?
This is quite complex, and it would be useful if people are involved in this area for them to get in touch with the HWL Ebsworth team. However, what I can say in general terms is that we would like to hear from people who currently have a matter either before the CSIRO or a court or tribunal, because we'll want to know how those procedures are working. Our general report will deal with procedures, as I've said, and the chance to deal with them will be enhanced if people who are currently pursuing a matter or have pursued a matter come to see us. What we're working on is on the basis that if it appears to us that the procedures that have been followed have not been adequate, then we will take up the matter further at the phase 2 stage.
And Dennis, what will happen at the end of phase 2?
We'll report to the Chief Executive on matters that we think warrant further action by CSIRO, and that will be cases where there does look to be strong evidence of bullying or other misbehaviour, and CSIRO will then pursue those matters through its procedures.
Dennis, why is it that you can only make recommendations to CSIRO and in some cases to the Minister? Why is it that you can't force CSIRO to act on your recommendations?
There's been a lot of misapprehension about this. No investigations of any kind, whether they be parliamentary committees or royal commissions or what are sometimes misleadingly called judicial inquiries, can make changes to the law or changes that affect individuals. It's only possible to make recommendations to the government, and then it's left to the government, and in this case the government is the CSIRO, to implement what is being recommended.
Dennis, some concerns have been raised about your independence, given that CSIRO was involved in drafting the terms of reference, that it's paying for the investigation and that it will receive the report. How do you respond to the concerns that have been raised?
Well, I'm a fairly independent sort of person. I come from a background with, when I was the Commonwealth Ombudsman, as you've mentioned, I've undertaken a large number of inquiries for the government, and some of those have been very critical of the government's action. And I instance the report into abuse in the Defence Force that you and I were co-leaders of, and which reported last year. And that was fairly hard-hitting. That's the approach that I'll bring to bear in relation to this matter, and I intend to call it as I see it. And indeed, Dr. Clark has indicated that's how she wants me to report.
One final question, Dennis. Can people make a confidential submission?
Yes, it's possible to make a confidential submission. I suggest that if people do want to go down that pathway, they get in touch with the HWL Ebsworth team to sort out how best to proceed. But if people don't want their information revealed to CSIRO or their name or any indication that they've dealt with us, we'll still be very happy to receive the information, and we can use that in our general report, taking care that the person's name or circumstances are not disclosed, and we can look at the matter as far as we can take it without being able to reveal any information to CSIRO.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Mel.